Thank you so much for staying tuned to this channel. If you just joined us, this is TMI. You can call it This Morning on ITV. Well, on this discussion segment, it's all about commemorating the World Youth Day, or International Day for the Youth, talking about youth engagement for global action. But here in Edo State, it's all about the youths and Edo 2020. With me here in the studio to talk about this, he was one time the chairman, National Youth Council, Edo State Chapter, and of course he's an activist. Join me to welcome Solomon Guber. Solomon, welcome to TMI for this edition.
Thank you very much.
All right, now here we are. The youths, they are still in the front burner. If you get to read the message by former President Olusegun Obasanjo telling the youth to chase the old generation, so to speak, right now out of power, for them to come take over, to engage in development, talking about developing Nigeria and of course the constituency where they come from. That was his message to the youth. Now, if you take a look at that statement and measure what is happening right now with the youths in this country, do you think that is achievable?
If you ask me, it's a dream. Achieving it is it's going to be a very difficult task, because even the man who mentioned it, most respected Olusegun Obasanjo, knows it's a political statement. Because when you say chase away, how are you going to chase them away when form for political party, just interest form for political party ranges from 21 to 22 million naira? How many young persons? And now the age of a youth in Nigeria is between the age of 15 to 25 by Nigerian policy. Even though we are saying that's not the original thing, it's 18 to 35. But even at that, how many 35-year-old person can muscle as much as 22, 21 million naira to buy interest form from a political party? And you know, that's not just it. You have other things you need to do. You need to do campaign. So how many young persons can do that, can muscle such forms? So that's how I'll tell you that. To me, it's more or less like a political statement. But yes, it can be said just to waken up the minds of the young persons. Nigerian politics is like the Nigerian judicial system. It's a very difficult thing, because justice in Nigeria is almost justice denied, because the common saying is that justice delayed is justice denied, and justice in Nigeria is very expensive. Same is politics. Politics in Nigeria is not only that it delays, because we don't have a godfather, if you don't have a relation, if you don't have a brother, you don't have a sister who has a connection, you know, it's not really very easy. You understand? For you to have political space, you must have occupied political space, directly or indirectly. You know, so if you ask me, how many, look at it now, aside the two major political parties, how many of the other, with all due respect, mushroom parties? Or if you like,
I wouldn't use the term mushroom.
Okay, sorry, but okay, other political parties or political associations, if you like, how many of them are Muslim parties? So it goes there. So when you talk about, I'd like to concentrate more on global impact, or global actions. The youth should wake up, because if you look at it, in all of it, the youth are the front burner. When it comes to, they want to talk about the bad side of the country, especially like Nigeria. They talk about the young persons. But when they are going to talk about the good sides of the country, they are going to call chief, malam, alhaji, doctor, professor. They are not going to mention young persons. So it only means that we are just like a tool in the hands of the politicians. And so it's hard time the youth take the center stage. I think if that was the message of Olusegun Obasanjo, I would agree. But when you say kick them out, chase them out, it's not possible. Because he who pays the piper and he takes the tune. You ask me, are they paid? Who is the piper? Who pays? It's also that he who owns the cutlass and the yam decides how it goes. If you ask me, politicians have deliberately made poverty a policy in Nigeria, so that they continue to have the young minds at their call and beg. And so it's hard time the young persons to wake up from their slumber, understand that today governance is driven by technology. 10 years ago, people don't go on Twitter handle, Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram to campaign. Campaign was on the main street, and then violence was even more on the street. But violence has been reduced because politicking has been taken to social media and mainstream media. And so there is less impact or confrontations from parties involved. And this was made possible by the involvement of young persons. They develop apps, they develop, they manage social media handles. You understand? And so, point I'm trying to make is that they are the ones that do canvassing, they do campaigns. You have political parties talking about volunteers and all that. Only yesterday I was also watching a political party aspirant came with a campaign app. That's only possible because young persons are involved. That is to say that campaign and governance or electioneering has gone into e-governance, e-electioneering, e-campaign.
Oh, now, from what you're saying right now, our youths are just supporting Jews when you talk about election.
That is what I'm saying, that we should leave the stage of just being a supporting tool to the stage of being a part and parcel of government. The government talk about open government policy, open government program. We should be a part of it. Rather than be a second fiddle, you just go there and be a manager of a social media handle for a political aspirant, and you are not there. But it can also be possible when the likes of Olusegun Obasanjo, President Muhammadu Buhari, former President Goodluck Jonathan, and all former leaders of this country agree. It's not just enough to sign not to run,
Yeah.
into action. It is also important that they make it a deliberate thing, create a deliberate policy to drive the not too young to run bill, or the not too young to run act rather, so that it becomes realistic, becomes reliable and true. So what we have at best now is just having young persons at best get some appointed positions that may not even be enough to show that they are in governance. But I expect that at this time, because it's not just enough to say young persons, then you get them to be in your campaign team, you get them to do campaigns for you. After campaigns, you go get 40, 50, 60 years old men to come and be in your cabinet and begin to run the administration. It's that time you begin to engage them in governance.
Engaging the youths in governance. Now, some of this mentality that the youth, so to speak, they are like, according to them, being branded when we talk about election for hire, to carry out all manner of things that this political party or some political party want them to carry out in forms of violence, ballot box matching. You get to hear about shootings also in some aspect of electioneering. We talk about Edo State election. Is this what it ought to be?
No, that's why we must change the narrative. That's why you must begin to not think and make signage. You must begin to make realistic. You must begin to have an understanding of having an impact in governance. And the only way you can have that is to have a pact with government, have a pact with the political associations or political persons, as it were, so that you can be a part and parcel of government. How do you be a part and parcel of government? You must be involved in the politicking. You must be, young persons should wake up and begin to associate with political parties. Because when men of repute refuse to take up responsibility of a leader, they will be led by mediocres. You are a young person. You are only there to talk on social media about politics, and you are not involved. Rules, laws, policies will be made by these people, and you will not be involved. To tell you, youths are not, it's just giving a dog a bad name in order to hang it. However, the young ones that I've made, I just told you of. I watched it on your station yesterday. An app being developed by a young person for a political party, a political campaign. How can't we make such impact and begin to also sign parts of being part of government? But you don't hear most of that. You only hear some persons have their head and legs broken in a political rally. It was due to youth involvement. No. How about the positive side that the young persons are making?
So how can we not change that narrative?
Because how we can change the narrative is that the young persons should wake up, join political associations or political parties, begin to get involved.
But they're already involved. They're already there.
They are not involved. Is it that doing a social media handle? How many young persons are commissioners? How many young persons are directors? How many young persons are campaign directors? How many young persons are in the forefront? How many young persons are contesting these elections? I just told you, the only two you hear are the two major parties. How many young persons are involved? And so it starts from political parties reducing their fees, making it realistic for young persons to get involved in politics. And so until you do that, you cannot say the young persons do not want to be involved. Because sometimes some of the excuses is that the young person does not want to be involved. But when they look at the whole sum, I just told you, at least you are aware that from the major parties, the list is about 21 million to get just an interest form. So how do you get young persons involved?
But still, we have Nigerian youth, some of them that are really, really able to get this amount.
Can they
fight for offices?
No, listen, we are looking at when they said the youth went to buy me form. That's not true. You know that they gave out those money and just gave a name so that it will be seen as if that's what we are saying. Rather than use them to pretend as though they are part of government, involve them in government. And I know that all the issues of youth groups, bought funds for me, youth groups, are just but a story.
Quite interesting. Well, right now, as Edo Guber huts up, people are like, the opinion that violence should be executed. But from what is going on right now, I haven't feelers of it. You get to hear accusation and counter-accusation. You get to hear accusing fingers being pointed at political parties, but all this are orchestrated by youths. I know you are in a hurry to get to somewhere. What advice do you have for these youths that will allow themselves to be used by these politicians?
No, see, I said give a dog a bad name. They are giving a dog a bad name in order to hang it. Among the two political parties that had issues, for instance, are they young persons? Is anyone there less than 40 years? No, Mr. Wilson. So,
but the ones carrying out the actions, you get to hear gunshots, you get to hear mayhem, you get to hear so many other disturbing news.
Wilson, let them begin to say the good side of the young person, not the bad side. Those who shot at the instruction of an elderly person. Yes, there was fracas. People have disagreements. But let me also tell you, it is just like a negligible few members. I would always refer to as like the Judas Iscariot out of the 12. Jesus Christ had 12 disciples. Only Judas Iscariot, 1 out of 12, betrayed Jesus. People did not hear much of the 12 as much as they heard about Judas Iscariot. That is the scenario. How many youths were there at that scene where the gunshots took place? How many are the number of youths in Edo State? So you now use less than 1% of the total number of persons there to generalize the 99% of youths.
So you're saying this is just the work of his few?
Of course.
A handful of them. All right. Okay.
My advice to the young person is that they wake up at this time, join the political party, be involved in the political system, understand the political policies, and get to be part and parcel of politics.
Right, get to be part and parcel of politics, but we are seeing, feelers or hearing that, look, these guys are involved, but not in commendable ways. You get to hear.
There was a commissioner that resigned in Edo State some time ago. He said, I listened to him. He said, I was in government but not in power. He said I was not empowered. So he was just in government, but he was far from it.
Okay. All right, thank you so much, Solomon. I know you are in a hurry to meet up with a very, very important engagement. Not to worry. And next time we're going to have enough to really expatiate on this particular discussion, because we want to get in some quarters, not all quarters, just some quarters, about the activities of youth, or will I say the purported activities of youths. They're quite disturbing in course of this election, and no one is like wanting any form of disturbance of violence in Edo 2020. Thank you so much, Solomon, for pledging. I appreciate your comment.
Thank you.
All right. We'll take a short break. We'll be right back to continue with this discussion, and of course the dominance of two major parties in Edo Guber. What about the others? We'll be right back. Do stay tuned.